Sentimental Forex update for the 9th of November. S&P chart, we are rallying like mad at the moment. This is MR1 at 3480. MR2, which is what I was saying last week, if you remember. If we're above this, then we can target that. And if we're below this, we can target that. We just think of things quite scientifically. So this dotted line there is the halfway point between MR2 and MR1. And we've got the 100%. So this is going to be some quite heavy supply, I'd imagine. See how we've broken that? There would have been a channel there. We've broken it. Just a very basic channel. You can draw this on your chart. This is a H4 chart, something like that, you know. So very try and get an equidistant channel, but you see how it was a buy at that point, and that was 50%. So that was 100%. This is your 0, 50% on that range, and then that would have been a good entry because it's above monthly pivot too. So that's your risk calculation. We are back on, and the herd have sold the indices, as you would have seen on the risk calculation. AJ above 75.52 and 74.82. Check your moving averages, all ascending. They're quite bullish, and we are a buy. AU above 73.01, so it's very, very close. It's like 6 pips away, so that's probably going to get hit, I think. It's quite large. And one below 72.24, we are a buy, and at that point they sold here. So these guys, being stubborn, they hold on. Because they hold on, price comes up to punish them, and it takes their stops. These blue lines are old stop loss clusters. So it's taken them out, but it's coming up and taking them out, and it wants more stops before it comes back down, because we are a buy. EA above 163.81 and below 162, sideways. EU one above 119.01, so that's very, very likely. It potentially hit the round number, grab that stop and fall, because this can be quite cruel, this instrument. The one below 118.70, we are a buy, strong buy, and at that point they sold here. I figured they'd think it was going to fall, and what they've done, they've got terrible risk management, and they haven't really got like stops. So they're thinking they're trying to outsmart the market, but it's coming up. So they could have got out there. They didn't. They thought, no, it's going to continue to fall, so they held. At that point, it becomes a buy, because that bias gets stronger over time. So yeah, it's got to keep an eye on your sentiment, especially when it crosses the 50% line at that point, at that date there. So it became a buy at that point. So yeah, a bit tricky. One above for GU is 132, so that's 19 pips away. 13161. This has been deactivated from the signal because of the Good Friday Agreement and Joe Biden presidency and Brexit news and all that sort of nonsense. That's going to cause a lot of volatility. No doubt at some point this week someone will say something about Brexit, so it's going to skew our signal. So we'll ignore this, but at that point it became a buy. Here, see the 50% line? Massive spike there. NU on above, this is the largest stop loss cluster at 68.30, at 67.48, we are a buy. Interesting that they're actually going long, so I think we might take that, then come down. That's interesting. EJ above 123.2, on below 122.19, we are a buy. Very choppy. At this point it became a buy there. So yeah, and we're above monthly pivot. Remember to keep an eye on your monthly pivots. Likewise for the same as the cable, I'm going to ignore this week and might reactivate it next week. I'm not sure yet. There's a stop loss cluster being taken at 136.36. There you go. Some liquidity there for the big fish. And below 135.36, we are a sell, and it's sideways. Technicals are strong though, and we're above monthly pivot. So whether or not that size gets smaller or larger, it tells us continuation. If it gets larger, they'll just continue to go up and take more stops. So it's quite cruel. UJ above 103.81 and 103.15. We are a sell, but we've got to remember that we're getting close to extremes. Over 80%, we don't trade it. Below 20%, we don't trade it. So if it does get to 80, we just completely avoid it. So yeah, strong on the low time frames, but not so good on the H4 or daily. Dollar CAD, one above 13035 and below, that could show me 1298.80. So we are a sell, and at that point, there's the 50% mark, 50-50, where it flipped the bias up here. So you would have you would have sold it because they went long. They crossed over the 50% line, so then it became a sell up here at 133.24. So 300 pips on that move. Once it crosses the 50% line, so you get that to match the technical, and you'd be doing okay. So here it would have been a sell because of the monthly pivot. You see, and then you'd have waited perhaps for a candle or two below monthly pivot, knowing that it was a sell because it's crossed the 50% line, and you would have done quite well. 254 pips using those two. So there's a good demonstration of sentiment and technical. Dollar Swiss, one above 90.26 and below 89.69. We are a sell, but we're going into extreme territory now, so we've got to be careful. I have a small position on this, which I'm holding because I'm targeting 0.88, but I'm probably going to likely going to exit because I made a lot of pips on it. So it's only a small position. So keep an eye on that ratio. Got to be careful. And gold says MR2 1963, and the gold bubble is telling us it's a sell. So if you were to trade it, this would be a good level to trade against because it's a strong resistance, and we know that sentiment's a sell. High level, it's a buy, but the gold bubble is telling us the movement across time, so that's more powerful. And your monthly pivot there is miles away, 1890. So you'd have been clever to have got out around about there and switched your bias, but it is tricky. And yeah, it's just a fairly long one today, and I'll be back later in the afternoon. I'll speak to you guys soon.